Hey, it's Paul here, and welcome once again to the Most Important Game podcast. Have an amazing guest today. Just got off the conversation with Nathan Ray. Nathan is a 10th degree black belt, been in the martial arts for more than 37 years. In fact, he opened his dojo 37 years ago in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina. This is an amazing person, both inside and outside the gym, inside and outside the dojo. It's really been fun to hear Nathan talk about what it takes to perform at your best and how the mind is such a powerful really tool and resource for us as we enter into any performances. You want to stay to the very end on this, as at the very end, we get a glimpse into what Nathan says is the secret to when we should be training. So let's dive in. Here we go. All right. So excited to be here with Nathan Ray. Nathan, great to see you, my friend. How are you?
I am, let's see, how am I? Happy, radiant, and free. I am tremendous, my friend.
Is there ever a time when you are not? I don't even have to ask. You are always that way.
You know, it's a choice, it's definitely a choice. And then that's, we make that decision up front and live into that space. It's a great day in paradise every day.
Okay. All right. But come on, man, life is hard. How can you, let's get into this, right?
Hey, let's go.
How do you do this, right? What do you mean it's a choice? I don't get that.
Well, I mean, we get to choose our words, and words are powerful, and words manifest. Words have a vibration, they've got a frequency, and through the discipline of martial arts, I've been very blessed to when I was growing up, my teachers, my senseis, they were cutting edge. I mean, really, for the time period they were in, they were in a time where the idea of going door to door, like, the Kirby vacuum, the vacuum people, that was like, at that time, that was the cutting edge. And they introduced that concept into martial arts. They even had courses, just like now, the idea of having a course about your specialty is a big thing these days, right? So,
of course.
But they were doing that in the late 50s, early 60s. And my teacher's teacher, he had organized a group of schools here. I think at the max, they operated about 9 schools. And the basis was doing that door-to-door, selling martial arts or karate courses. So for that time period, they were totally cutting edge. And they were learning how to be professionals at martial arts. A big part of that was being able to share something in a different way in terms of mastery of the mind, because they had to be able to connect with people from all walks of life. And so they were really big on teaching us mindset and connecting with people. And so as a boy, that was what I was learning. And as I've grown older and gotten more seasoned, as it were, putting those things into practice, because it's great to know things, but unless you put it into practice, you don't really realize the practical benefits. And one of the biggest things that I learned was your words are powerful, beginning with the words we speak to ourselves every day. So, yeah.
That is so true. And so easy to forget, by the way.
Yeah.
It seems anyway. I know in my own experiences and in the folks that I work with as a coach, I'm guessing as your students as well. It's just easy to forget.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then in a lot of cases, Paul, it's people's level of awareness or consciousness about what they are speaking has not been something that's been on the forefront of their mind. They just grew up a certain way. They grew up with certain influences and just took on those things without thinking about it. They say things that I'll put it this way. One of my business mentors, he said, here's a litmus test. Ask yourself this question. Do you want what you're about to say? And if you don't, you might not want to say it. you know. And my students, sometimes they say things, oh man, this is killing me. I was like, hey, wait, stop, don't say that. Don't put that out there, to bring their awareness up to the power of words. And it keeps me reminded, because a lot of things, I'm just hanging out. I mean, yeah, okay, I get it. I get the language, but do you really want to be hanging? Those kind of little details, those little words that it's just commonplace now, but could we say it in a way that could produce more for us? And a lot of times the answer is yes, we could. So,
Yeah, because it goes back to this idea that words are vibrational energy. They create a vibrational energy for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the binary, it's either productive energy or it's unproductive energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And I'm sure you see it with your clients too, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I see that to your point, they're used to using a collection of default words and statements and phrases that would make sense to anybody observing them. But
yeah,
they probably don't produce productive vibrational energy for them. And the subconscious is hearing that, and the subconscious is always listening, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
always.
I think it creates
Never goes
that,
to off, right? Never, the off button is never taking place with your subconscious. But like being out on the golf course, right? It's like, oh, my wedges are killing me. I'm like, oh my God, don't say that.
No. Okay, this is so good. Well, so all right, it's 5 minutes and we've swerved into golf, which is great.
Gosh,
So
yeah.
Nathan, you and I met because we're both on the single plane swing path with our friends at Graves Golf Academy, and
yeah.
I know you've had an opportunity to attend a couple of schools that I've been teaching at, which is great, and we've really hit it off, and so the reason to have you on here is because of the work you're doing in martial arts. I really want to dive into that, but
yes, sir.
Of course, it's the golf that connects you and I for sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say more about golf as a metaphor for life and performance, and all the things, especially that we're talking about in terms of vibrational energy and performance energy.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. There's so many parallels.
Big
first
topic
of all.
there, I know, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, when I went to the first school we met at in Orlando, that was one of the things that really got me to move out and physically get moving and get down there with you all, was the ideas that you all were sharing were so in parallel with martial arts. And my life has been dedicated to mastery. I mean, that's kind of my space, is self-mastery. And the cool thing is it doesn't matter what space the mastery's in. I told my students, said, what do you enjoy? What do you like? And I said, mastery. And it can come in any form. I mean, it could be someone playing the cello. It could be someone playing tennis. I mean, look at Simone Biles. Here you go. She's, back in the gymnastics space. Look at Caitlin Clark on the basketball court doing her thing. When I see someone in their mastery, and of course, I mean, when you see Mo and Todd strike a golf ball, and it's just like, whoa, but it always excites me no matter what someone is doing, because there are some common things that all of those people have that they lean into. And that's my study. That's been my life study, is to figure out systems and methods to be able to share with others so that they can tap into that. And myself, firstly, I'm a student. I mean, that's, I've always, well, my choice is to be a practitioner of martial arts, because you can teach something, but that's based, in your kind of in your knowledge of the subject, and you could talk about it. But for me, I found that keeping my own practice, rather than just being in that space in my head, it's really more about sharing my practice. And when you share your life and you share your practice, for me, it just has a little bit different type of a quality to it. So it's been real good. Yeah.
I love that. The idea of being in a practice. Like I never really understood this until I started my own coaching practice. And it's just funny how we use language, right? It's like, all right, doctors and lawyers, they get to be in practice all the time, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great
You
point. And
know,
I remember you mentioned that when we were in Texas together, that idea of being in, like you said, a medical practice. That has
yeah,
a different resonance to it. Change. That's a person who's embraced change, and whether
yes,
you like it or you're comfortable with it or not, you're going. Like I just speak for myself. Sometimes it's challenging. You get comfortable, you like what you like, and then I catch myself and I just say, "Hey, what would I share with my students? Be open-minded, relax, breathe, take a moment, and then look at how you can grow and evolve from what's taking place if you're open-minded." So, yeah, that's really helped me a lot.
yeah. And that word grow that you just used, say more about growth and a growth mindset and being willing to be in a practice of growth.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head when you just said being willing. You know, embrace the hard, because a lot of times people have it like, okay, over here is my start, and over here I get good, and then there's something else after that. Well, in between there's a space in there where it's challenging. Something has to get shaken up. Something has to get stirred up. Otherwise, you'd already be where you wanted to be. The fact that
Right.
you're not there yet lets you know there's something you got to face. And I tell my students all the time. I tell myself, excellence usually hides out where you're comfortable at, or uncomfortable. Pardon me, where you're uncomfortable at. Excellence is, it's like a ninja hiding out in the bush, in that space of discomfort and uncomfortability. Excellence is hiding and going, "Hey, come and find me. Here I am, hide and seek. But you got to come in here to get me." So I think embracing the hard, because it's going to be hard one way or the other. It's hard not being excellent. One way or another. If you can embrace the hard, you're gonna get to where you want to go. But if you run away from that, if you shy away from it, uh, it's really easy to get caught up in what average. Let's say, the average day. I'm having. How are you doing? I'm good. I'm okay. Really?
Right. Right.
Are you sure?
Ouch. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, like, you can even look at it in a physical or a mental stance. That's one of our big works, Paul. Is the method of karate, and for the viewers out there and those who are listening to this, um, I teach karate, or I'll translate English karate. Okay,
Do we
karate.
ever, and is it karate? Can
Yeah.
we say that?
Yes.
We could say
Yes.
that too, because that's
Let's.
sort of how, like, I
Yeah,
will playfully be like, karate.
yeah, and that's exactly right. That's exactly
Okay,
right.
that's
You
good.
see, if you've
We
seen
got that.
Kramer, he said that on Seinfeld one time.
Oh, does
He
he?
was beating up all the children in class, but but
That's great.
but yeah, the pronunciation is kara. Kara means empty, emptiness, and actually the character. There's a few things that went on with that, but kara, in the general sense, means empty or void, and te means hands. And on a basic level, karate means, you defend yourself without weapons. You use your body, you use your mind. That's got lots of different layers to it. But on a higher level of what we're speaking about with the use of words and so forth and so on, just imagine something that's gripped your mind as a hand that has a grip on thinking,
Mm.
on the words that you've chosen, on how you live your life today. And karate is a practice that is designed to empty that grip on your mind. It's a practice
Oh,
in
nice.
being able to let go of old patterns and to become a student again, to be new, to get on a path of practice that can literally make you a new person over time. It's really powerful.
Are you charging me for this? This is
No,
this
no,
is where this
absolutely
is
not.
gold, man. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
thank
Nathan,
you.
this is
Yeah.
yeah, this is great. Um, this idea of loosening our grip on our old ways.
Yep. Yep. And and that, like you said, that in itself is priceless. Because when you come into the practice and you realize that um, when you come into this practice or any discipline, whether it's the single plane swing, whether it's
Mhm.
whatever it is, and you get in that rhythm and you start to be aware that I'm headed somewhere, but in order for me to get there, I'm going to be a student 100%. I'm going to embrace the beginner's mind. I'm going to be a baby again. I'm going to throw away everything that I think I have, and I'm going to submit to this course of study. And the more we can submit to the course of study, the methodologies that are laid out, the more results we can get. Yeah. So, and these are all different points that will serve us so well. And the thing is, you get it to serve you in one area, you can use it in any area of your life.
Mm.
And that's what I really love about this.
Oh, no question. Okay, so what prevents learners, I'll say sort of like purported learners, like, because a lot of people sign up to learn. A lot of people sign up to learn the single plane swing, for example. I'm guessing a lot of people. I'm guessing it could be a different kind of a person who signs up for karate and a long-term engagement with something like that. Maybe it's not different, but um, the question is, what prevents somebody from really being a great learner?
Hmm. That's a great question. And I think it's, in a lot of senses, it's universal. Um, Number one, like the old story, you come in and your cup is already full. And so the master, he starts pouring water in the cup, and the student says, hey, it's spilling over, it's spilling over. He keeps pouring it in just to get their
Right.
attention, right? Like that metaphor to say, unless you empty your cup, how can you receive the new? How can you receive anything if if you think that you've already got everything, you know? And I think that begins, well, in our school. We start students off at the end of our class. We do a salute. It's equivalent of bowing, but we do like this. We cross our arms, bring our hands forward, and we, at the end of every class, we yell fight. And that fight, those letters spell out, FIGHT, spell out focus, imagination, greatness, humility, and truth. Those are the first five pillars that our students begin with. Okay. But number four is humility. And I think that ties into what we're speaking about now. It's having a humble heart and a humble mind to say, yes, what I have is valuable. I do value what I've gained over the years, or ever what period of time it is. However, I'm going to humble myself now and be a student. I'm going to let go of all that so that I can receive the gift that I'm here for. Because if you can be in receptiveness, if you can be that container that receives fully, the more you receive, the more you can grow to where you're trying to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I'm thinking about the learning process and certainly thinking about it in the golf, in the golf journey, right? For myself, of course, for others, as I see them work their way through, right? Yeah, right. And you're on the journey too. So as you think about your own experiences, certainly your experience inside of martial arts is a lot longer than it is or than it has been on the single plane swing. So how much do you feel that learner um, sort of how much do you feel like really being a student and being a learner? And then like when, if at all, do you find yourself in tension with the part of you that says, I got it?
Right. Right. Okay. For those that don't know me, I've been studying martial arts since I was 6 years old. I'm 53 years old now, so I guess that's what, 46 years or something like that. 6
It's a
or
couple
7 years.
decades or
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
Yeah.
a few more. Yeah,
Yeah.
a few minutes. And
Yeah.
then I've
Public
been,
math is hard for me, Nathan.
yeah,
So
me too.
yeah.
Yeah, and then my karate school I started when I was a freshman in high school. My business, and it's been 37 years and running so far. So far, so
Wow.
great. And but so having done this for the length of time that I've done this, I can tell you it's a joy to be in the single plane academy and be a student, and to be able to just to open myself up and to remember what it is to be a beginner again is super valuable, even outside of the academy, the golf academy, because it has stimulated and reminded me of, and caused me to remember the mindset of being a beginner. So now, guess what? I can be more sensitive to my students who are coming in, who are new. I can be more attentive and mindful, because sometimes you can lose perspective. If you've done something for a while, you can lose perspective and forget what it's like to be a beginner. So picking up that club and getting in there with you all, and getting that guidance from you all, it's like man, that's awesome. And having Todd or someone come over and grab your body and push your hip, and you're like, okay, it's supposed to feel like that, and just all the
Oh,
sensations.
that's what that's supposed to feel like. Ouch.
Exactly. All those
Yeah.
sensations and all of those things, it reminded me, because when that happens and something starts to click in your mind, and you go, oh, like you just said, oh, I do that for my students. Hey, you need to bend that knee, and I'll kind of push their leg a little bit, bend that knee, and straighten your hip and touch. But there's a power that comes with just touching. You're adjusting. That energy transfer is a real
Mm.
thing. Like we talked about words and the frequency of that, but also even just a kind touch to help guide somebody is healing for them. A lot of what we're doing is there's an aspect of healing to it. A lot of people think about karate or martial arts as something that is destructive or violent. But actually, something that's really I found very interesting in my study is when you look at the character of the word Budo in Japanese. Budo means like martial arts. But when you
Hmm.
break down the radical and the characters and you separate those characters out, it is two characters. It means stop violence. And so martial arts is like a great paradox where you're doing these things, these fighting things, punch and kick and all this. However, ultimately, you create or you set up a situation where a person becomes a complete human being, where violence isn't necessary, where you connect with people on a whole nother level. And that's what 10th degree black belt. I mean, I recently was got a little bump to
Got a
10th
little
degree
bump. Well,
black belt.
now, and before I just don't want to pass by this very quickly because this is a huge deal. Right? You just achieved this recognition. And if I characterize it correctly, that's super rare, and is bestowed upon professionals like yourself who have spent decades in the space. So tell the listeners, tell us about, like, well, what should we know about being a 10th belt
Right. Yeah.
or a 10th,
Well,
right?
yeah, 10th
Or
degree.
right,
Yeah,
10th 10th
that's
degree black belt.
yeah. Most schools, most martial arts schools have similar ranking structures. Some different color belts and things in the beginning. Usually
Mm-hmm.
7 to 10 levels, generally, not always, but and then as black belts, usually there's 10 levels of black belt. And as you alluded to, I mean, it represents a lifetime of commitment to reach that level. Uh, and then you really grow in that process of growing as a human being. You really, for myself, at least on my journey, what it represents is being the growing and reaching towards being a complete human being, to be someone who is there for others, someone who can love others. And I know that might sound for some people like, wait, martial arts, you're fighting, and you're talking about loving people. However, but when you give of yourself and you pour into others, that's real love. When you're showing them a better way than they might know about, that's real love. And they do it in turn for me too. I don't want anyone to think like, oh, you think you got it all. No, I know I don't. But that's the beauty of it. And I think that's what being a 10th degree black belt is. A big part of that is you realize that your students are your greatest teachers in most cases, and that there's no judgment. When someone comes in, there's zero judgment. It's looking at our conditions, learning from each other. And because of the training, you really learn how to value others' perspective. Um, because when you can do that, you can learn. And that goes back to our initial start to this part of the conversation.
Right.
How do you become a true student of anything? Is you open yourself up for the perspectives that others bring, and that adds value to you. And for someone who's getting the higher levels of black belt, we start to realize the value of that, and that the kick and punch aspect, the defense, I mean, that's there. However,
Mm-hmm.
it's a gateway to your highest human qualities. Yeah.
At some of the at most of the Graves Golf Academy schools that I attend, and you've experienced this, I believe, as well. You've got 20 golfers and they're all practicing. They're all on the range practicing. And the coaches are moving up and down the line. And somebody might be unattended for a few minutes working on their swing. Pardon me. And then comes the moment where the coach moves into their space and moves in behind them, right? And now the student feels the presence of that coach. And something changes for that student and they start hitting the ball poorly. So I think that's the piece where the in my mind, and I want to get your take on this, in my mind, the student is trying to prove their competency instead of
Mhm.
elevate their competency.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
curious
Yeah.
if you see that in if you see that and or have experienced that as a learner and for learners inside your dojo and so forth.
Yeah. One of the things that sets in is tension. Like, and sometimes you don't realize you have that tension that sets in because it's kind of like that mental part, like you said, it's stimulated. You feel that energy, you recognize that they're watching, and then all of a sudden things shift internally, and that internal shift, it creates a level of tension in the body, you know. And sometimes it's so subtle you don't realize it, but when you start moving and trying to hit positions and do those things, it's off because of that tightness that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that in the martial arts. I noticed that in myself because we want to perform for, if Ty comes around, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be the next Mo. Watch this. But then you get you get all tight and nervous and all those things that we have to, not that we have to, that we get to explore in our practices and what we're doing. Um, I know for my students, I'm sure they feel the same thing when I come around. It's coming from a good place. They want to perform well for you, but what it does is it creates a level of tension. And that's why in our school, in our karate school, for those, again, just to educate everyone, you have different schools of karate, just like you have different swings with the golf club,
Sure.
Yeah. So we use the single Mo Norman single plane swing. He's our model. And I think that's the same principle in martial arts schools. The master of the school is going to be the model, basically.
Right.
Uh, and he's responsible, or she is responsible, for being that model on all levels: mental, physical, and spiritual. And so in the practice in our school, we say in Japanese, we say Shin Shin Toitsu Karate Do. And all that means is karate with mind and body coordinated. And we have four basic rules. The first rule, we said, we keep our 1 point. It's a spot about 2 inches below your navel, above the groin, in between the groin and your navel. And in the West, we say what? Our center of gravity. In the East, they say this is your center, your energy ocean, kikai, or hara. And in Sanskrit, they call it prana. So if someone's studying
Oh,
yoga,
right.
they know what I'm talking about. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
prana, right? That's the energy pool. And so we remind the student, we show them conceptually, hey, put your concentration in your 1 point. This will help lessen the tension in the body, right? So it's just like when we're doing the single plane swing, right? Yeah, you extend and there's a level of tension in the right places, but you're not like stiff. So we keep the 1 point. And that's the first rule of mind. And the second rule is the first rule of the body: relax completely. Then the third point, we say keep the weight underside. This means, naturally, if you have your hand here and you relax, it comes down. The weight is on the underside. You don't relax completely and your arm floats up. That's not natural unless you're on the moon or something. And
So
then,
keep the weight on the underside.
yeah, you think, because your body follows your mind. So if you think underside, everything becomes grounded and centered. This is our third rule. It's the second rule of the body, and our fourth rule is the second rule of the mind, which is extend the energy, extend ki. We say, and and ki. Ki is like your life force. Like some films, Star Wars, they had the Force. Ki is like that. Master Yoda is doing his thing. He's one of my favorites.
Sure.
Uh, but
Nice.
but that's why, because he's relying or leaning on a power that is not really something in the scene, right? Just what we do. I have in my school here. We have a picture on the wall of a iceberg. Just you see the tip.
Mm-hmm.
This represents the we say the body, but then you got this huge mass underneath, and we said that part represents the mind. Then we can use those four rules I mentioned and coordinate mind and body. Now you have that 10% of your conscious work, but then the other 90%, now you have a connection to that. So now you have 100% mind and bodies working together. Yeah. And so that's the place that we practice our martial arts. And martial arts is not just kick and punch in this building. Martial arts means master your life. It means we want to take these things and do it in our everyday life. Otherwise, it cheapens the value of our practice if we just limit it to kicking and punching. But how
Of
can I keep
course.
my 1 point? Hey, okay, let's say you have a heated discussion with someone. Now it can become an argument, or it can be something that benefits both of you because they have a perspective and you have a perspective. Can you keep your 1 point? Can you stay relaxed and not get
Mm.
tense? Can you keep your weight underside and be centered and grounded? Can you extend a positive energy to them in the right way? And now you're creating an environment of growth and learning.
Rather than one of conflict.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
All
didn't mean to
because
go
of,
off on a tangent, but that's
yeah,
the
no, this
process.
is
Yeah.
this is so good. I have this theory that as I think about a lot about golf, right? But as you know, and we've talked about, I work a lot in corporate culture and leadership and teamwork and some other spaces. But I have a theory that outside game skill development and inside game mastery, they're actually symbiotic. They're, we often talk about, well, yeah, you got to have the skill, and with the skill, the mental stuff is just easy. You just right. And I think it's maybe a little more nuanced than that. I think it's a little bit more like, well, yes, skill is important to your point, right? Understanding how your body should be moving in space, like that's really important. Bringing the right mental energy, the right force, if you will, to that practice allows that learning to happen faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you because uh, it's like a mirror in a sense, but in Asian studies, it's like yin and yang, right? The
Mm-hmm.
opposites, you know, they play together,
Right.
and I'm in agreement with you. What's happened on the inside, we can is mirrored on the outside, and sometimes what you see on the outside gives you a glimpse of what's happening on the inside. Of course, if you see someone and they're frowning and sad looking, then you say, "Oh, they look sad. Are you sad?" You ask them, "Are you sad? Is everything okay?" You check on
Right.
them because
Right.
you saw something on the outside. Then, on the same way, someone on the inside is very confident, very strong, and they're walking. You can tell by the way they walk. Oh, wow, this person's very nice, confidence, good attitude, shoulders back, posture. So I agree with you wholly. As far as it relates to learning, that can open learning or shut learning down. That's why I'm sure in your space as a coach and helping people with performance, one of the first things you can tell someone is, okay, I get you got some things going on. Change your body language, change your posture. That's something you can do right now. Everyone on this podcast can do it right now. Smile. That even change. Like when I do my affirmations in the morning, I heard mentors, I've heard lots of people in the self-improvement space say this for years, and I didn't practice it. Now I practice it, which is in the morning when I'm doing my affirmations, I remember smile when I'm doing it. Say it. When I'm reading those great things, smile. And on some level, you start to go, this feels really fake. But then what I found is because I've been consistent with it, and that goes back to something else that we kind of touched on, having a consistent practice no matter what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The consistency is a gateway. I mean, the key to open things up. But so I would say over the last 6 months, I really made a conscious effort to literally smile as I read those things. And now, as I'm starting to read, it just happens automatically. The smile comes on, and that releases what? Certain hormones and things in your mind. Your day gets going, and it opens you up for more positivity or whatever you're looking for in terms of your goals. But I guess, and the last thing I would say on that, Paul, I mean, because you hit it on the head. I mean, yeah, what's inside is reflected outside, and that affects learning. I would say uh, the power. Don't sleep on the power of visualization, because you can. If I can say this, you could be broke as a joke. You could just be you're like, oh man, my finances are, oh my god, oh. You could be like that,
Right.
and not and feel like you don't have the means to start really making a change. But the moment you realize I can change it here with my imagination, and I can visualize myself being better with my finances, I can start, and that's, guess what? It's free. There's no
It
charge.
is. No
You can
charge.
do that. And whether it's finances, whether it's a relationship, you can see yourself being a cool cucumber instead of hot like coals every time someone says something to you. You can chill out. You can visualize yourself being that cool person who's hearing these things, but has the ability to listen to another person before reacting. If you're in kind of a hothead, you can start to change all that here first. And when you start to just do that just a little bit, a lot of people, and they don't necessarily get it, but all they got to do is try it a little, and then
Mm-hmm.
it'll start to open things up. But this is something like, that's why I say, well, I can't do anything because I don't have money and I'm broke and blah blah. I don't have time. Or I tell them, I say, really? I'll say, okay, close your eyes right now and see yourself getting that together. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
right now, you can do it right. You got time right now with me. We're right here together.
Sure.
Close your
Yeah.
eyes and start making that change right now. And then they open their eyes. I say, like that, you can make the time to change your whole life, and it can happen. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but the process can start right now. Yeah, with a thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So this idea then of, I think you've said this a couple different ways, but the word that comes up for me is a discipline, where discipline is the heart of happiness. It's
Yeah.
it's what creates happiness for us at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you teach and bring this idea of discipline to your students, and what would be how would the concept of discipline, how could that show up for somebody on the single plane swing?
Mm. Uh, well, for the students, I like to bring humor into it a little bit, and to show them that discipline is hard in your mind. However, discipline is very simple, and that's the challenge a lot of times,
Mm,
because we make things humans make things complicated in their minds. But in reality, maybe it's not that complicated. My Aikido master in Daniel, he's in France, southern France, and I brought him here to North Carolina. He taught a seminar, and he said, and he's a great martial artist, and he was talking about certain principles and techniques, and he said, uh, "Keep it simple." He kept saying that. Then he told a story about a sculptor. He said, "There's a great sculptor, and he did a horse, and this horse looks like it's sweat, all the detail, the musculature. This horse is incredible." And people came to him and said, "Oh my God, how did you do that with this marble and with this stone? How could you get all that?" When he said, the artist looked and he said, "That's easy. I just took away everything that wasn't a horse." So he just chiseled away what
that's great.
didn't belong, right? Keep it really
Hmm.
simple. And I think that's the big thing, is keep things very simple. And for the student, I also just share with them, it's the way to discipline is making a clear decision. When you really decide, I'm all in. I mean, we talked about it at the Single Plane Academy. Burn the boats. When you're
Burn the
totally,
boats.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you're totally committed, and that, I mean, that has to be something that is. I mean, I think that's very a personal shift that a person gets to make. We get to make that decision about whatever it is that we're talking about. Whether you're going to be committed to being open as a student and learning. I think the same thing is true in our golf practice. It's like once you internally say, okay, I am going to 100% do this, and I'm going to figure it out, because you get to think, I get to think, we all get to think. And sometimes we get lazy and want someone to think for us, but it's not as effective having someone tell us what to do. And I think that's why a lot of times in martial arts, I know I had the pleasure and to be the student of some great masters. And what I found out is they don't like to think for you. they they don't, it's not like some people say they tell you everything and all that. Nah, they are so cryptic sometimes. It's almost,
It's like they're leaving the cognitive load on you, the learner, right?
yes,
Like
yeah.
that is really classic,
That's
outstanding coaching, right?
yeah, yeah. It's like at the end of the day, you get to think. And when you do that, you can own it. If you don't do that, I mean, if you read a book, if you read about what someone else did, how they did it, that's great because you can learn from it. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, what I've seen over the years is someone who you kind of leave a little bit for them and let them figure it out. They get a whole lot more out of it than just trying to tell them every little thing, right? So, yeah. So I think that there's a certain withholding that masters do, but it's purposeful and it has a reason for the good of the student, you know. And then sometimes students say, "Couldn't you just have told me?" Yeah, but that wouldn't be fun. You miss out on that journey. You
It
get to
just
have
wouldn't
that
seat. It
journey.
doesn't seat the same. I know it does
Mm,
not seat itself the same way.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm curious. Are the work of a couple of years ago, James Clear
Oh,
wrote
yeah.
a book called Atomic
Atomic
Habits.
Habits. Yeah.
Yes, right. I want to say in
Awesome.
2022. I think it was like the number one book on Amazon, which is really saying something. And it's really
Yeah.
this idea that we can make massive improvements by taking itsy bitsy tiny little, in his words, atomic level changes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean,
I love that idea.
that's the sculptor. That's take away everything that's not the horse. But you
Mm,
don't take away big chunks. You just these little things. You just yeah. I love James Clear's work. The way the way he put it together was brilliant, and it takes a lot of the pressure off. Like habit stacking. These are some of the things I tell my students. Hey, you're brushing your teeth. Stand on one leg and do it. Just don't jab yourself in the. Don't jab yourself. But you
yeah.
stand on one leg and you brush your teeth. You know you're gonna brush your teeth. Okay, when I brush my teeth, okay, I'm gonna stand on one leg and do it. Little things like that you can tie together, like just those little what do you call nuggets that he gave in his book are just awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I would say that I have taken away is, and of course still on the concept, or on in the world of discipline as a concept, I've taken to calling my workouts baby workouts. And
Nice.
it keeps me able to lean in and maybe do them more often than I would have otherwise.
That's great. And this goes back to what we said, right? Words, right? Choosing
Words have
words
power.
that have
Yeah.
power. And it takes we spoke about tension, and it takes some of the
Hmm.
pressure off. I'm gonna
Yes.
just go do my baby workout. And you're like, yeah, let's go do our baby workout.
Yeah,
I
I
love
know.
that.
There's
I
when I
love
say
that.
that, like, yeah, there's nothing inside me that's protesting. It's like, nah, it's
Right.
just a baby workout, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think a lot of the listeners will get great value out of that. That's a nugget right there, right? Like how do we frame what we're taking on? And if it's this huge monumental thing in your head, and remember, it's just here. It's all in our head. But if we make it this huge monumental thing, I think you're not going to charge me for that, are you? I hope not. You
Exactly.
could, because that was good.
Precisely not.
Yeah,
I
that was
appreciate
great.
that.
Yeah,
Well, you're over
yeah.
your limit on quotables, by the way. So, I've been
Oh,
writing
really?
and you're way over your limit. But
Oh, okay.
um, all right. So here's one for
That's
you.
cool.
I know sometimes we come up with these concepts and then they seem to stand in contrast to other concepts. Anyway, first chapter in my book, I the point of the book or the point of the chapter is that golf is hard, and we ought to say so.
Hmm.
Now, I wrote it, so I understand the sentiment, and I think that, right. And I think the sentiment is really like, look, I mean, if we're expecting to go out and shoot 72 or shoot 18 like like the chairman in Korea, or that famous story from 40 years ago, right? North Korea.
18.
Yeah, well, that was the funny story, right? It was like Kim Jong
Kim
Il
Jong Il. Yeah,
would that be
yeah.
the and the
I think
is
that's the
Kim
father.
Jong Un is in power right now?
I
So
think
the
so.
father, yeah. So right, so the father, starts this authoritative state, and he's in charge of all the news, and he's got to pump himself up, right? It's this whole
Of course.
entire, right? That was his
That's his
marketing,
stick, right? Yeah.
Yes. Um, so yeah, one day supposedly the story is he goes out to play golf, and the news comes out, the propaganda that, we would call marketing today, right?
Right.
Is that he goes out and he shoots an 18. Perfect score. The chairman is perfect. Also all the subjects are supposed to bow down and be like, oh, the chairman is
Yeah.
perfect, So
Wow. I'm
but
speechless.
I know, funny, right?
That's a good one.
So this, so the idea that golf is hard, like,
Yeah.
if you expect to go out, if you expect expectations is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Right. So if you think you can go out every day and shoot 72, then the game will disappoint you. I think that's the point of chapter 1 in the book, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
And however, there's also a school of thought that says, look, sometimes we make things too hard, and there's sort of a way to press the easy button and make things a little easier. Timothy Galloway, back 40 years ago, right? He wrote The Inner Game of Tennis, The Inner Game of Golf, and he goes down that path of, all right, there's an easy link. And the easy link in golf is, if you're putting, for example, you got a 15-footer and you're like, oh, this is a hard putt. Well, just imagine putting your hand inside the cup, or imagine doing something simple and easy that you will never fail at. And he says, imagine putting your hand in the cup and pulling out a ball. Can you do that? Yes, I can imagine that. Okay. Imagine that and settle into that, and then hit the putt, and imagine that the putt is as easy as. Anyway, long bit of a preamble here.
No,
but,
I get it. Yeah.
Like, what is it hard? Is golf hard? Is it easy? How should we think about it?
Yeah, I like both. I like both because you said it. Managing expectations. This is something that's been a recent shift for me because I'm still a competitor inside. I mean, despite your rank level in martial arts or whatever, I don't care what level you are, you're always a student. And I think that's one of the things that being a high level martial artist realizes It's not like you got it. No, you're always a student. I think it's
Mm.
similar to in golf. You realize, right when you think you got it, golf says, no, you don't. You haven't got me
Yes, it
yet,
does.
Yeah. But so I love what you shared about managing expectations, because that was a big for me, even here recently with my golf game, which is, you know, it, I would be so hard on myself. I wasn't enjoying myself. It's just like, because no, I didn't shoot what I wanted to shoot. I didn't do X, Y, and Z. But then I had to look at, well, what exactly do you think you're going to get out there and do? And is it really realistic? You know, like you said, I didn't shoot an 18 today. Dang.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then,
you're
yeah,
not perfect?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. What? I'm not perfect. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, managing expectations. And then another thing that Tim does really great is brings in the actual numbers, brings in the statistics.
Right. Right.
And then when you know that a PGA Tour professional at 15 feet isn't making but 23% of those shots, and then you go, well, maybe me missing that ain't such a bad thing, because
Yep.
now you're looking at some real numbers, and that allows you to even manage your expectations more. That's another thing, because Tim's been putting those things out, and Graves Academy has been putting those things in front of us, saying, here are the statistics, but learning and really knowing how to apply that, and not ignoring what your teachers are putting. Like you said, be 100% student. Now, really listen. Okay. There might be a reason why they keep putting those statistics in front. What is the reason, and how does that apply to me? Right. So then looking at that, going, so if I just get close, what if I can just put it up there and tap in for that bogey? That's a pretty good day at the office, because guys that are doing 8-10 hours a day as a job are only getting 23% of those shots. So if I just
No
get it
doubt.
within 2 or 3 feet, I'm doing pretty darn good. Yeah, and then I think that what that has done for me is it's allowed me to manage my expectations,
Mm.
take the tension out of what I'm doing, and that's created. I have much more fun on the golf course than I did for several years now, right now. So yeah, so that I
Love to
think
hear
that's
that.
big. Yeah, so your
And
first
I think it's
chapter
about
is on point.
perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So it is hard. It's difficult. It's hard to score low, right?
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it
That's a
requires a lot of
reality. That's a
skill.
reality. Yeah.
It's a reality. It requires effective self-management, right?
Mm-hmm.
Managing this up here.
Yeah.
Um, and yet a lot of people approach the game and struggle inside of it because they sort of misidentify what the game is all about. They don't really have a good concept.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, Paul, is like really understanding what you're out there to accomplish in the game of golf. What is me going out playing golf? What is it I'm actually doing out here? As opposed to, you know, look at some tournaments, you're watching PGA professionals, and now you're making your world around some imaginary concept. They don't even do it, but in your mind they do it.
Yes, yes, exactly.
I,
Yeah,
I
you're
walked.
that far removed from really
Yeah,
understanding. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
right.
you're out of reality. So I walked I wanted to learn more about just thinking my way around the course. So I volunteered for the SAS. It's the Champions Tour, and they have a tournament here in Cary, North Carolina. You mentioned it earlier when we were talking,
Yeah,
right in Cary at Prestonwood. And so for years, it was about 3 years. I volunteered so I could get behind the ropes, and I carried the score. I was the guy with the score, walking with the
yeah,
group, and
absolutely.
and I did that so I could see how they thought their way through the course. Just walk right there with them and just kind of see their process, and that was so valuable doing that. And I remember, and I won't say his name, but someone very well known on the Champions Tour, and he did not have a great day. And he was just doing his thing. He's great. They're all good players, but you could tell, he just kind of he just getting through the day. And so, but when I looked at the news, and they took those 4 moments where he really just like got that, and they stringed it together, I was like, wait a minute, where'd that happen?
That's not what I saw.
That's not how it went, But
yeah,
so I can see why people can easily misidentify reality like that, because the picture that gets painted, like you said a moment ago, the word perspective, it colors your perspective, and now you're trying to operate in reality on a false premise.
Yeah, that's so true. And one of the things, I know you're going to come to an AAI school very soon, which is super exciting.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It's going to be great to have you there. One of the things we talk about, one of the things that we say is no more watching weekend golf. And it's a little tongue in cheek, but the idea is that if all you see is weekend golf on the PGA Tour, and what you're seeing is all the people who made the cut. So you got to play well to make the cut. And then you're seeing in the afternoon, you're seeing the top 20 leaders. Yeah. And then you're seeing the top 20 who are also playing really great that week. And then you'll see 3 or 4 in the bottom, let's say 60, bottom 50, 60, who, chipped in or, made the 60-footer or anyway. So all we see are all these balls just rolling in. And we're like Kim Jong-il. Yeah, of course it's easy.
I can get an 18.
Of course I get an 18. Yeah, right. So so we kind of tongue in cheek, but we say, hey, no more weekend golf. I will say that the one resource that I've seen and begun connecting with, if I can, is the ESPN feed, especially like on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday afternoon, the ESPN feed where they follow the groups just like you did. It's right. Every single shot. So
yeah.
Right. You
do that.
See, you see Nathan Ray playing every shot, and it's just a different.
They better watch experience. You, Paul.
Hey, man, after my performance in Dallas, couldn't figure those greens out.
I know. That was. I was on some greens yesterday, man. They got punched, and I was just like, okay. But those greens got punched yesterday at the course I played on yesterday, and I was just like, oh wow, yeah. So that was my story for myself. Yeah, the greens got.
Of course, I know. We have to have stories.
Yeah, I tell lots. I always
love the your friends will report in on their score. They'll be like, I shot an 86. Almost had a 76. You ever get that one? I always love that one. I never know what to do with that.
Like,
I've sort of taken to, it could have been a 96.
Exactly.
Because that's how I feel. Like, I would shoot it. I would like, I shot an 82. It looked like a 92. I have no idea how I shot 82,
And isn't that funny? Because and this goes back to being at the academy. I like to read the Golfer's Creed that got created. I don't know when it got created. I don't know the history of it, but I read it. This is, I value my, developing my swing over golf flight results. Kind of grounding you to
over outcomes.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And because you could get out there and you're doing the game right and you can score well. Or you can get out there and you can look fantabulous and you're hitting hero shots and it's actually kind of getting through the tree. But that culmination of that is you didn't score very well, right? So then it becomes a question of being clear about what you want your outcomes to be and why. And that goes back to do you know why you're out there? What are you trying to accomplish? Right. So I think that's
Yep,
a big part of anything. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Well, hey, this is super fun. I know we're kind of up against the clock just a little bit here. Before we leave, I'd love to get your take on best advice you ever got
Yeah.
in your journey. And I'll say your journey broadly, but best advice.
Train on the days that you eat. Any day that you eat, that should be a day that you train. Best advice. In other words,
I get it.
Yeah. That leads to the holy grail of what majority of, I'm sure, people in the schools, I know at least the school I went to, when the question was asked, what do you want most? Consistency. So, if that's what that alludes to. It's like, have it built in and know that you don't have to. And it's just like the what's taught at Graves Academy, which is how to practice properly, what you all teach at the AAI school.
Mm-hmm.
It's get a grip on how to create routines, how to create mindset that go along with those routines. And so by doing that, that's going to lead to our consistency. I think that was the thing, when that was shared with me, it's just like, huh? Oh, okay. So every day we can do something every day. It doesn't mean you got to take 2-3 hours or an hour. You can do something 5 minutes every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Do something every day. Why? Because your confidence is going to come up. So when you stand over that ball, you feel confident because you're like, man, I actually practice. It amazes me because a lot of the golfers I golf with, they're upset. They get hot. And I'm like, oh, okay. How often do you practice that? I don't practice. Like, what? You don't practice and you're mad right now?
Stunner. Yeah, and you're mad. Yeah.
And you're mad.
I know.
Yeah.
I
So,
know.
yeah, I think that was just it's kind of like a little joke, but it's really real. Practice on the days that you eat. That's all you got to do.
That's perfect. That's it. That is the secret.
That's it. That's the secret.
All right. Well, Nathan Ray, so awesome to spend time with you. Congrats again on the being awarded, conveyed the 10th Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
Totally
very
awesome.
Much. Yeah.
I think that having you spend some time with us has just been, there's a lot of gold here, and I'm sure our listeners are going to take advantage of it. So,
well, thank you so much, Paul. I mean, everyone out there who's, I'm sure, following your podcast already knows this, but man, you're what you're doing for us and with the mental side of things is incredible and powerful. And man, I know, I'll just speak for myself. I really appreciate you and what you and the team at Graves do. And hey, man, just keep doing your thing. You're changing lives. Yeah. So just keep doing it, man.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Well, great to see you. Can't wait to see you soon. And enjoy your time on the course until we get a chance to meet live again.
Sounds great. You too, my friend.
All right.
I love how you signed my book, Greens and Fairways. I love that.
Absolutely. Fairways and greens, buddy. Fairways and greens.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks. All right. Well, thanks for joining me for this edition of the Most Important Game podcast. I'm Paul Monahan, and my mission is to help you lead, play, and perform at your best. We had an amazing guest today, Nathan Ray. We'll leave some information on how you can connect with Nathan if you are interested. If you're learning more about the work that I do, you can reach me at paulmonahan.com. You can find my book there, The Most Important Game, and it's available in all formats, Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and even audiobook. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast, please hit the follow button. A special shout out to our producer, Kevin Monahan, today. Thanks, Kevin, for working all the levers behind the scene. Until next time, remember, don't give up. Stay in the game. No matter the arena that you're performing in, it is possible to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more.